Hello everyone, my name is Mark. Today I'm going to read Ready to Read Level 3 Science of Fun Stuff The Cool Story Behind Snow. I will read from chapter 3 to chapter 4. Stop. Because yesterday I just read from chapter 1 to chapter 2. Chapter 3 Recipe for a Snowstorm. We want a snow day, so how do we make a snowstorm? The first ingredient in this recipe must be cold air. In order to have a snowstorm, the air must be at or below freezing, from the cloud tops to the ground. During the winter, cold air from Canada is pushed south into the United States by strong winds in the upper part of the atmosphere, known as the jet stream. The next ingredient is a flow of warm, moist air to create clouds and precipitation. That moisture usually comes from the Gulf of Mexico. You learned rain and snowflakes stream from colliding water drops and ice crystals. Well, a snowstorm occurs from colliding warm and cool air because warm moist air is larger than cool dry air. The warm air rises above the cold air, forming a boundary zone called a front. Have you ever watched the weather forecast on TV? You've probably seen the weather map showing different kinds of fronts. The leading edge of a push of cold dry air is called a cold front, while the leading edge of a push of warm moist air is a warm front. When the cold dry air and the warm moist air reach a standoff and don't move very much, the boundary zone between them is called a stationary front. Winter storms will usually form along the stationary front when the front bends or wavers. The air will begin to move in the counterclockwise direction, forming a storm system. Just how strong a storm will get depends on how much moisture and the energy is available. In some cases, the storm may become very strong, producing strong winds and heavy snow. Blizzards. You've probably heard people say it's a blizzard out there during a snowstorm. Not all snowstorms are blizzards, though. When the winds are blowing constantly at speeds of 35 miles per hour or more and snow is falling heavily, then we call that a blizzard. Blizzards are dangerous and because the combination of falling and the blowing snow can make it hard to see. When you can see for only a short distance ahead of you, it's called a whiteout conditions. And the best place to be during a blizzard is indoors. You should never try to travel or go outside when a blizzard is raging. Chapter 4. Hail, sleet, and freezing rain. Frozen precipitation can come in more forms than just snow. During the spring and summer months, hail can fall. Hail starts out as a frozen raindrop which gets tossed up and down inside a cloud by strong winds during a thunderstorm. Collisions with other raindrops followed by freezing and refreezing cause layers of ice to form. When it finally gets too heavy, it falls to the ground as hail. Wow. Hail most often is the size of a pea or a marble, but some hailstones can grow to be much large as a golf ball or even a softball. Okay, or at the medium size is a golf ball size. If you cut a hailstone in half, you see the rings of clear and cloudy ice, indicating the numbers of times it got tossed up and down in thunderstorm cloud. Kind of like a frozen yo-yo. Sometimes during the winter, a layer of warm air develops in the upper part of the atmosphere and precipitation falls or rain. Closer to the ground, however, the temperature is at or below freezing. The rain drops free because just before hitting the ground, falling as ice pellets called sleet, which can bounce upon hitting the ground. Sleet makes driving dangerous. So if you must travel when it's icy, remember to always fasten your seat belt. sleep belt. Sleep belt. That is seat belt, but we have sleep, so we call it sleep belt. If you see these ice pellets falling. Ice storms are caused by freezing rain. Freezing rain is different from sleet and it falls like ordinary rain until it hits any solid objects that is at or below freezing. The rain then freezes on contact with the object, which soon becomes covered by a thin layer of ice, which is called a glaze. Because streets and roadways are usually dark in color, and because the icy glaze is clear and difficult to see, it's sometimes called black ice. People driving cars may not see this ice and skid on the road. This is why ice on streets and roads is extremely dangerous to drivers. When freezing rain falls for a long time, thick layers of ice can pile on trees and power lines and cause a lot of damage. Ice storm can be beautiful but also destructive. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Riddle. How does a snowman get to work? Please answer in the comments below. Sometimes it's not a snowstorm that can bring heavy snow, but the wind. When very cold air blows over large bodies of relatively mild water like the Great Lakes, it can pick up lots of water vapor, which then freezes into snow and quickly piles up near the shores of lakes that face into the wind. This type of wind over water snow, also known as the lake effect snow, can produce blizzard conditions and drop a huge amount of snow in a very short time. Sometimes thunder and lightning will occur during a snowstorm. Thunder snow. This can happen when the atmosphere becomes very turbulent, rough, stormy, and unstable. The air is rapidly forced upward through the clouds. The effect is similar to a thunderstorm in the summertime, except instead of a downpour, you can get bursts of very heavy snowfall that can drop several inches of snow or more in a single hour. In the United States, large amounts of snow can be found in several different places. Lots of snow fell in the parts of Northeast and around the Great Lakes, as well as west in the Rocky Mountains. The least amount of snow falls in Florida and along the Gulf Coast of Texas or Louisiana. In these parts of the country, it's too warm to snow for most of the year. As a result, snowfall for these places average can only 1/10 of 1 each winter. And very often there are winters where no snow falls at all. But snow has fallen in all 50 states. It can even snow in Hawaii. So this can happen only in places that are very high up. It might be 80 Fahrenheit on a beach in Honolulu, while at the same time the tops of Hawaii's highest volcanoes are getting dusted with snow. Congratulations! You come to the end of this book. You are now an official Science of Fun Stuff expert on snow. So the next time you're home enjoying a snow day, remember the science behind the fun. Hey kids, now that you're an expert on the science of snow, turn the page to learn even more about the weather and some weather predicting tools along the way. Okay, so now that's my video and bye.